You pull off your crew socks at the end of a long afternoon, and there it is. A deep, indented trench carved straight into the flesh of your ankle. It looks like a heavy rubber band was twisted around your lower leg. And even after 10 minutes of sitting in your favorite armchair, that red ring refuses to fade. Or maybe you notice that your comfortable walking shoes, the ones that slipped on perfectly at 8 o'clock this morning, suddenly feel like a tight leather vise by 6 o'clock in the evening. For a lot of folks over the age of 60, the natural instinct is to brush this off. We blame it on a humid summer day. We tell ourselves we spent too much time standing at the kitchen counter making dinner, or that it is just another standard, annoying part of growing older that we have to live with. But public health data reveals a much more urgent reality. According to a landmark study tracked through the National Health and Retirement Study across 2 decades, persistent lower limb swelling affects nearly 20% of all older Americans, 1 in 5, and top cardiovascular specialists are issuing a direct warning. Chronic fluid accumulation in your feet, ankles, or calves is never a standalone cosmetic quirk. It is a highly specific broadcast from your deep internal plumbing. Your body is waving a red flag that your heart, your microscopic blood vessels, your waste filters, or even your breathing patterns are operating under dangerous, unseen pressure. By the time you finish watching this video today, you will know exactly how to decode this fluid buildup. We are going to break down the 5 precise reasons why fluid pools in mature tissues, how to tell a benign situation from a true medical crisis using a simple 5-second home observation, and the exact steps you need to take alongside your primary care physician to protect your long-term independence. To understand why this fluid builds up so much more easily after we cross the age of 60, we have to look at the hidden architecture of your body's drainage system. Most of us think of our circulatory system as a closed loop of blood vessels, but it actually behaves more like a soaking garden hose. Every single minute of the day, your heart pumps blood rich in oxygen down to your toes. During that journey, small amounts of watery fluid constantly leak out through the ultra-thin walls of your microscopic capillaries. This liquid is supposed to bathe your cells and deliver vital nutrients to your tissues. Under normal circumstances, 2 distinct cleanup crews manage this moisture. First, your deep veins collect the vast majority of it and push it right back up toward your torso. Second, you have a secondary, lesser-known network running alongside your blood vessels called the lymphatic system. Think of your lymphatic system as a series of delicate storm drains running beneath the streets of a city. Its sole job is to sweep up that excess escaped fluid, filter out cellular debris, and empty it back into your main bloodstream near your collarbone. But as the calendar pages turn, this entire infrastructure undergoes a natural shift. The tiny one-way trapdoors inside your veins that block fluid from sliding backward become stretched and less effective. At the same time, the walls of your lymphatic channels lose some of their natural elasticity. They become slightly stiff, slower to react, and far more easily overwhelmed by everyday challenges like salt, heat, or prolonged sitting. Quick favor before we go any further today. Please drop your city and state in the comments section down below. When I see exactly where people are tuning in from across the country, it helps me tailor this practical health advice for what you are dealing with where you live. And I love knowing who is listening in our community. Now stay with me, because what we are about to look at next is a real-world warning story that completely changed how one senior approached his daily health routine. Let me tell you about a gentleman named Arthur. He is a retired high school history teacher from Columbus, Ohio, who just celebrated his 68th birthday. Arthur loved working in his backyard vegetable garden, spending hours tending to his heirloom tomatoes every morning. But over the course of a single spring season, he noticed a subtle, frustrating change. By the time he sat down to watch the evening news, his shins felt incredibly heavy, almost like he was walking through deep mud. When he pressed his finger against his skin, a small dent remained behind for nearly 20 seconds. Like so many independent folks of his generation, Arthur did not want to make a fuss. He assumed his legs were simply tired from standing on the soil, or that he needed to buy a wider pair of walking sneakers. He began spending his afternoons sitting in his recliner with his feet up, waiting for the heavy feeling to disappear. But every morning when he got out of bed, while the swelling looked slightly better, That dull, tight ache in his lower legs remained. The turning point came when his daughter came to visit for Sunday dinner. She noticed that Arthur was shuffling his feet rather than taking his usual confident strides, and she saw the deep purple discoloration developing around his inner ankles. She insisted on driving him to his primary care physician the very next morning. That doctor's visit was a massive wake-up call for Arthur. His physician explained that by ignoring the fluid accumulation and simply resting in a chair, Arthur was allowing stagnant fluid to pool around his delicate skin tissues, which was dangerously close to causing an open, painful skin breakdown known as a venous ulcer. More importantly, the doctor discovered that Arthur's swelling was actually an early, quiet warning sign of a cardiovascular strain that had been flying completely under the radar. Arthur's story has a wonderful ending because they caught the issue before any permanent tissue damage occurred, but it highlights exactly why we can never afford to treat lower leg fluid as a simple cosmetic nuisance. It is a dynamic signal that requires immediate, accurate investigation. This brings us directly to the first two major reasons behind this fluid accumulation, starting with what doctors refer to as right-sided cardiac strain. When people think about heart trouble, they usually picture sudden chest pain or a dramatic medical event. But the right side of your heart has a very specific, quiet job. It is responsible for pulling used blood back up from your lower extremities and pumping it into your lungs to gather fresh oxygen. If your lungs are stiff from years of environmental exposure, or if your blood vessels are tight due to long-standing, unmanaged high blood pressure, that right side chamber has to push with immense force. Over time, the muscle walls of that pump can become tired and less efficient. Because the pump is running slow, a microscopic traffic jam forms in your plumbing. Blood starts backing up into the large veins of your abdomen and legs. The pressure inside those vessels spikes and water is aggressively forced out into the surrounding flesh. This typically shows up as perfectly symmetrical swelling in both legs that gets progressively worse as the day goes on. The second major cause is a localized structural failure known as chronic venous insufficiency. Inside your leg veins, you have hundreds of tiny, fragile one-way check valves. These valves act like microscopic trapdoors. They open up to let blood flow upward toward your torso and then snap shut to prevent gravity from pulling that blood back down to your toes. But after 6 decades of continuous work, combined with factors like family history, carrying extra body weight, or hours spent standing on hard surfaces, these little gates can wear out. They warp, stretch, and fail to close completely. When that happens, blood slides backward and pools in your lower calves and ankles. This is where the real damage begins. As the blood pools, it stretches the veins, causing the visible, twisted, bulging ropes we call varicose veins. But the visible part is just the tip of the iceberg. The stagnant fluid causes your legs to feel tight, throbbing, and restless, especially when you finally lie down to sleep at night. If you notice that the skin around your lower shin is starting to look shiny, tight, or has taken on a rusty, brownish stain, that goes against what you might think is a simple tan. It is a sign that red blood cells are leaking into your skin tissue, and it means those valves need immediate structural support. Now, right here, we need to pause and address a massive misconception that catches thousands of seniors completely off guard every single year. When many folks notice their ankles swelling, they automatically assume their body is just malfunctioning on its own. But here is the shocking truth that goes against what almost everyone believes. The very medication you take to protect your health might be the exact reason your socks are cutting deep rings into your skin. This is what clinical specialists refer to as the common pill trap. There is a highly popular class of blood pressure medications called calcium channel blockers. You might recognize them on your pharmacy labels as amlodipine, nifedipine, or diltiazem. These pills are fantastic at lowering your stroke risk because they force the tight muscular walls of your arteries to completely relax and widen. But there is a major structural catch. While they open up the arterial side of your plumbing, they do absolutely nothing to widen the tiny venous drains that carry blood away from your lower limbs. As a result, blood rushes down into your lower legs at a high volume, but it hits a bottleneck on the way back up. The intense physical pressure forces watery fluid straight out of your blood vessels and locks it directly inside your ankle tissues. If your leg swelling began, or became significantly worse, Within a few weeks of your doctor changing your prescription or adjusting your dosage, you are likely dealing with a pharmacological side effect, not a failing heart or failing kidneys. Never stop taking your medication on your own, but share this timing with your physician so they can explore safe alternatives that do not punish your legs. The third major culprit behind lower leg swelling ties directly into metabolic health, specifically a process known as the microvessel diabetes leak. When blood sugar levels sit in an elevated or pre-diabetic range over a period of months and years, it does not just affect your energy, it actively changes the physical structure of your circulatory loop. Chronic excess glucose acts like microscopic sandpaper on the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels, a specialized layer of cells called the endothelium. As this lining becomes irritated and damaged, your tiniest capillaries lose their structural integrity. They become structurally weak and porous. Instead of keeping your blood volume tightly contained, these weakened vessels allow watery fluids and vital proteins to drift out and pool directly into the tissues of your feet and ankles. Furthermore, if long-standing sugar shifts have caused minor nerve damage in your feet, a condition known as peripheral neuropathy, your lower leg muscles lose some of their reactive tone. They stop pumping fluid upward effectively, trapping that stagnant volume right above your shoes. This connects directly to our fourth major reason, which is the silent filter drop associated with your kidneys. Your kidneys are the ultimate master regulators of your body's fluid volume and salt balance. Every single day, they filter hundreds of quarts of blood, carefully deciding exactly how much water to keep and how much to send to your bladder. But after age 60, the overall filtration speed of these organs naturally declines. If an underlying stressor like high blood pressure or metabolic strain is present, that decline can speed up quietly, without causing a single shred of physical pain. When kidney function drops, two systemic changes occur simultaneously. First, the filters become slightly loose, allowing a critical blood protein called albumin to leak out into your urine. Albumin behaves like a liquid sponge inside your bloodstream. Its physical presence creates the osmotic pressure that pulls water into your veins and keeps it there. With less albumin in your blood, water easily slips out through your vessel walls. Second, your kidneys begin holding onto excess sodium as an emergency reflex. That extra salt acts like a sponge, expanding your total fluid volume and forcing your heavily burdened lower legs to balloon outward, causing symmetrical swelling that is often accompanied by a distinct puffiness around your eyes first thing in the morning. This brings us to our fifth and final reason, which is perhaps the most heavily missed and misunderstood diagnosis in modern primary care: the sleep apnea pressure trap. When seniors experience swelling in both lower limbs, they almost never stop to consider their breathing patterns at night. But top pulmonologists warn that your respiratory health dictates your lower leg vascular pressure every single day. A breakthrough clinical study published in the Journal of Family Practice completely revolutionized how we evaluate this link. Researchers tracking older individuals discovered an astonishing correlation. Up to 35% of all patients diagnosed with moderate to severe obstructive sleep apnea experience persistent, bilateral lower extremity edema, completely independent of any prior history of structural heart failure or chronic kidney disease. To understand why this happens, we have to look at the severe pressure shifts that occur when you sleep. When a person has sleep apnea, the soft tissues in the back of the throat collapse repeatedly throughout the night, completely blocking the airway. In a desperate, frantic effort to draw in oxygen, the chest muscles expand forcefully against this closed airway, creating a powerful vacuum inside the chest. This intense internal suction draws blood rapidly upward from the body, overfilling the right side of the heart. Simultaneously, the sudden drops in blood oxygen levels cause a biological reflex known as pulmonary vasoconstriction. The blood vessels inside your lungs violently clamp down to try and optimize oxygen exchange. This creates an immediate high-resistance bottleneck. The right ventricle of the heart tries to pump blood forward, but it hits a physical wall of resistance inside the lungs. As a direct result, that intense pressure backs up all the way down the main veins and directly into the deep tissues of your lower calves. By the time you wake up in the morning, the cellular walls of your lower leg capillaries have been subjected to hours of intense fluid strain, causing water to pour into the surrounding tissues. This is why addressing nighttime breathing issues through targeted therapies is often the exact missing key needed to finally deflate chronic leg swelling. Now that we have uncovered the 5 hidden physiological triggers behind lower leg fluid accumulation, let us pivot directly to what you can do at home starting today. This is your concrete action plan to regain full control over your physical comfort and structural mobility. The very first step is a simple 5-second assessment you can perform right in your living room, known as the thumb elevation test. Sit comfortably in a chair. Locate the flat, hard surface of your shin bone just a few inches above your inside ankle and press your bare thumb firmly into the skin. Hold that steady, direct pressure for a slow count of 5 seconds. Then lift your thumb away. If your skin snaps right back into its original shape immediately, your fluid circulation is relatively dynamic. But if a distinct visible crater remains behind, looking like a deep pothole in the tissue that takes several seconds to slowly level back out, you are dealing with classical pitting edema. Grab a small notebook and write down exactly how many seconds that indentation lasts, along with what time of day you perform the test. This exact log is an invaluable piece of data for your primary care doctor. The second foundational pillar of your home defense strategy is the 30-minute rule. Remember that your calf muscles are literally the secondary heart of your lower body. Every time you take a step, those muscles flex and physically squeeze your deep veins, pumping stagnant fluid straight back up toward your torso against the pull of gravity. When you sit completely motionless in a recliner or at a computer desk for hours on end, that pump goes completely idle, allowing fluid to pool unchecked. To break this cycle, set a simple kitchen timer or a reminder on your clock for every 30 minutes. When it sounds, stand up and perform 2 minutes of light movement. You can pace around your living room, or simply stand in place near a sturdy kitchen counter and raise yourself up onto your tiptoes 20 times in a row. This quick, intentional muscle contraction acts like an immediate hydraulic flush for your lower legs, preventing fluid from anchoring itself inside your delicate ankle tissues before evening arrives. Before we wrap up, it is absolutely vital to emphasize one critical safety rule for every senior and caregiver watching today. While chronic, gradual swelling in both legs is an important signal to discuss with your primary care physician at a regular scheduled visit, sudden swelling that strikes only one leg is a completely different scenario. If you wake up and notice that your left leg is significantly larger than your right, or if the skin feels intensely warm to the touch, looks noticeably red, or feels extremely tender when you walk, do not use your muscle pump exercises. Go straight to an urgent care center or emergency room. This is a classic hallmark sign of a deep vein thrombosis, a localized blood clot that requires immediate medical imaging to protect your lungs. For managing gradual daily swelling, remember your core checklist, track your thumb elevation test results, discuss your current medications to rule out the pill trap, break up long periods of sitting with the 30-minute rule, and ensure you talk to your doctor about your nighttime breathing patterns. If you found these practical steps clear, dignifying, and genuinely helpful for maintaining your health and independence, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel right now. Sharing this content ensures that more independent seniors across our community can find reliable, straightforward health information without the runaround. Take care of those legs, keep moving, and I will see you in the very next video.